Hi, Paul here. Super quick one today. It's just about, I'm seeing a lot of questions about which sample library do I choose? How do I know which one to use for which part and all that kind of stuff? I've said a couple of times before, it's very, very straightforward to make all of these libraries blend together. And so what do I use as my decision point? Well, I'm either picking it for the room or I'm picking it for the specific playing style and performance of the player, especially if it's a solo part. So I'm going to use three libraries, solo flutes, to demonstrate what I'm talking about, both by using different mics, but also by using reverb on them as well to show you the difference. So we'll start off with the BBC SO flute solo legato. Now, just as it loads up, you've got this kind of mix, the Jake Jackson mix. So that's great. It's got an element of the close mic in there, but it's got the room. It's kind of positioned. It's all nice. So there's a bunch of stuff you can do with this. I'm going to show you first up just using the close mic. So this is what the close mic sounds like on its own. Now, obviously, you've got a great kind of texture there with the close mic, but you've got no sense of the room. Now, what happens if I just chuck some cinematic room on it? It's literally just the amethyst tool. It's the first thing that loads up when you load up cinematic rooms. But check this out. So obviously, it doesn't really sound as real as the flute in the room, but it's still a nice sound and it's still really useful. And the one thing that you get from using a close mic and putting it into a reverb is that you get more of the, I call it spit. You get more of the kind of key clicks and all that kind of stuff. And so it's slightly unrealistic, but it is a nice sound. But let's just take that off again and go into the individual mic. So the tree, the Decca tree is the most vanilla, straightforward, classical sound. Now you can hear there that the sound is pushed back into the room. And if we put the outriggers up instead, then we've got the width. It's like the tree, but very, very wide. So both of those are sitting it right back in the room. We could take those and we could add a bit of the cinematic rooms to it and see what that sounds like. It is a nice sound, but the one thing that you're getting there, which is not good, not real in a sense, is that you've got the combination of the room sound being put into another room sound early reflection kind of thing. So what I would do there is I would push all of the early reflections out of this mix and only use the tail, the reverb tail. And the difference there is this. Now that sounds a lot more coherent, but it's too wet. So let's just dial that back a bit. And that's a sound that I quite like. We can bring back a little bit of the close mic in, if you like, just to give us a kind of feel for the body of the instrument. So that's a variety of options that you can do with a library where the player is recorded in the seat, but you've got all of these different mics to kind of choose from. I'm not going to go any further into that. What I am going to do is I'm going to switch to the SSW library, which is recorded in a Lyndhurst, so it's recorded in a quite ambient environment. And this is my default for this library, is like the close mic, you know, sort of just above half, and the outriggers. And it sounds like this. Right, where do we go from here? Now, that's obviously, is a really classic kind of filmic sound. If we chuck the close mics up, lose the outriggers, I'll just show you what the close mic's like on its own. Pretty dry. But if we pop on the bit of the reverb, bit of splosh. Let's go back to our cinematic rooms and dial back in the early reflections. That did sound a little bit odd. Okay, so what have we got now? Okay, that's sounding more like it. Or, we can go kind of crazy. We can put our tree and outriggers up. Okay, let's turn the reverb off. That sounds like this. We've pushed it right back, and we can add a bit of reverb to that. Oh, just jump back in, get rid of the early reflections. Okay, so you've got that there. Again, it's that kind of slightly silkier example. Let's jump over to Studio Woodwinds. Recorded in Air 1, a much drier sound. Now you've got two options of close mics here. I'm going to use the C1, which is a little bit warmer and closer. And C2 is a slightly cooler sound. We'll have a look at the other stuff. But first up, that's this. Okay, so very, very dry. Now, there is an onboard reverb. I'm not going to use that. I'm going to go back to our cinematic rooms just so we're using a consistent reference. I'm going to pull the balance back down so we've got the early reflections back in. As you can see, we're building the soundstage back into it. But we could do something different. Let's take that off again. And let's just check out the tree and outriggers on this together. Now, there's not as much difference. When you record in a smaller, drier room, there's not as much difference between the trees, the outriggers, the ambience. But what you do get is you get the spatialization. Okay, so you get the idea. So we can go back. Whoops, probably a little bit too much. We can go back to this, take out the early reflections. And we're back to that slightly stagier sound. I mean, we can even go, really kind of give it tons of welly. And again, if we do put those early reflections back in, you'll hear it starts to sound a bit odd. I shouldn't say odd. Any sound that you make can be good or bad for a specific thing. But for me, this sounds a little bit confused in the way that it's kind of presenting there. The other thing that we can obviously do is we can put the close mic back in. It's probably a bit too much. To get a bit more body of the instrument, a bit more presence. And compare that to no reverb. You've still got that really great room sound. I mean, if you put the kind of basic IR that's loaded into the library, so no, controls or anything like that. This is just like your kind of default. It's a relatively tight. It's not quite as lush and and huge as the cinematic rooms one, but still quite useful. And then if we go back to our close mic only, and I mean, let's go mad. I'm going to put Seventh Heaven on as well. Just chuck that up to be a crazy, crazy length. And we could blend these two reverbs to get a larger than life sound. which just goes on forever. So in summary, because I do ramble on a bit, how do I know which library to choose when I've got a part? It's going to be about the performance primarily, and then I'll kind of adapt the other stuff around that. There's obviously a benefit if you know you're going to be doing something that's like a tight pop track, then obviously getting that whole soundstage set up becomes equally important. But if you're talking about a specific solo part like this, I wouldn't worry about mixing different libraries together. I would go for the one that sounds best on the performance, and then I would work to kind of give that its place within the soundstage just by using the mics and a bit of reverb. And as you can see, there's lots and lots of stuff you can do really quickly without having to worry too much, and not overthinking it. Hope that's useful. Just a quick one. See you on the next one. Bye-bye.